Hello, everyone. You hear me? All right, welcome. Let me send the invitation. cs5610 lecture starting now. All right. All right, let's give everybody a couple more minutes to join. Sorry, I had to move the time a little later. I had a few things happening at the university late in the evening, and then there was just horrible traffic getting back home. Okay. All right. Let me change this. Everybody see my screen? Perfect. Okay. Yeah, okay. So let's go over where we've been and where we might be going while we wait for some other folks to join. So we completed the first couple weeks where we were discussing about what is a web application, and in particular how to implement the user interface using HTML. Right, it's a language that allows us to lay out in rough terms what the content that we want, do some rough formatting with headings and paragraphs and lists and tables, and so to practice applying these skills of creating user interface, we started building an application called Kanbas, and we implement a few screens that where we can navigate between, and but it's somewhat rough, right? It's not very appealing, and so we said that we would come back in the next assignment, right, and style it, make it look a little more presentable using CSS. And so this week we've been discussing about CSS. That is an entirely separate language, right, that allows us to style existing HTML documents, right, and by being able to refer to the DOM data structures, all the different nodes and leaves and branches that make up the DOM, HTML DOM, right, and then specifying what what look and feel we want to associate to the various HTML nodes, right, and that's where we are, right. We're learning about CSS. And basically learning the syntax of the language. What can you do? What are its limitations? But yeah, soon we'll realize that it's actually quite challenging to to make look things pretty. For as much as we can learn about the CSS language, you still need an artistic eye to to make things look presentable and decent. So what we're going to do is that we're going to learn about the language, learn about how to use it, how to write it, how to edit it, what can you do, and but then we're going to be using a library called Bootstrap, right? That's it's developed by professionals that have been writing CSS for decades. It's their livelihood, and they've collected their experience into a set of libraries, which we're going to take a look at it early next week. And so we're going to be able to easily apply some nice styling to our pages. Still, the content is static, right? It's we can't create content from the user interface. We can't delete content or update content or create new content. For that, we still have to wait till we get to JavaScript and React.js and whatnot. That's in assignment 3, right? So that's in a couple of weeks. So yeah, that's where we are. Quiz 1 is being made available today, I think. Yeah, so if it's not available, I'll make it available today, and it'll be available for, I believe, 48 hours. So anytime between when it's available, you'll have 2 days to take the quiz. You'll need, I think, about 20 minutes to take the quiz. So find a 20-minute window within those 48 hours that you can take that quiz. So that quiz is open book, open notes. So feel free to to use the slides or the assignment or any code that you've written or any code that I've written, that you can use it as material for the quiz. Just don't go out and use ChatGPT, right? ChatGPT could solve the quizzes, and eventually he'll be able to do all our homeworks and all our projects. So the more we can learn it on our own and be able to create it by hand ourselves, we'll understand it more, right? And make us more competitive. So all quizzes will be available the second half of that week, whenever it is. So this week is today, whereas the on week 4, again, the second half of that week will be quiz 2, right? So yeah, so that's the plan for the next several weeks. Any questions so far? All right, excellent. So yeah. There's a question in the chat. Does it have a time limit after I start? Yes, the quiz is, I believe, 20 minutes long. So after you start, you have to complete it within 20 minutes. All right. So yeah, so I did want to go over the assignment and get you going with the assignment. Also review what we worked on already in the previous lecture, right? All right. So let's see where what we completed in the previous assignment. This is let's take a look at what we've got so far. All right, so we had created on the labs, we had created an A2 where we haven't played around with any of the lab exercises. So I'd like to go over a few of those, right? Just to review. We did take a look at we created a lecture directory where we played around with a few things, right? We went over a few examples of using Flex, right, to create a layout horizontally, right, where we can perhaps use this to refactor the screens where we use tables, right, to lay out the screens into multiple columns, right? So I'd like to revisit this and see how this could be used for refactoring some of the Kanbas screens, right? In particular, the home screen, the grade screen. Those screens all have several columns, right? laid out in a table. Right now, we're misusing tables to do that. So this would be a great alternative for laying out things horizontally. Okay, so yeah, we played around with Flex, and we played around with some backgrounds, right? So let's see, this is under lecture, right? And so let's start this. We can say npm start. Yeah, so exactly. So we played around with some of the exercises, right? And discussed how float can be used for laying out things horizontally. We saw that float was originally intended for laying out images, right? That we wanted to be able to embed them inside of larger pieces of text, right? That was the original intent, right? To have images of maybe diagrams or results from experiments, and where you could have the text of the research paper kind of like flow around the image or the diagram, right? And somebody had the idea that we could use float for laying out things horizontally like this, right? Because these images tend to stack, from left to right or from right to left, and folks say, oh well, we could apply that not just images but even paragraphs, right? To lay out things into 3 columns like this, right? Where you have maybe 20%, 20%, and then 60% in the middle, or maybe a third on the left and 2/3 on the right, right? Or maybe split it in half, 50-50 on each side. Then we looked at Flex, right, as an alternative to laying out things horizontally, right? Where we could declare a container with the Flex display type, right? And then all the divs that are inside that that container would be rendered horizontally. We saw that we can also configure them to align vertically in the center, to top, to bottom, or even horizontally to the left, right, center, right? And we saw that we can also be configured to expand the width to be to take up any space that is unoccupied, right, to the right hand side. And so what I like to explore, right, is that we can take this capability, this technique, right, and revisit, right, some of the requirements in the assignment where we should be able to lay out the the home screen, or lay out the the assignment screen or the grade screen, with these columns, right, using the Flex technique, right, using Flex as opposed to using tables. Okay, so I'd like to revisit that today. All right, so yeah, so we covered some of that earlier this week. So yeah, so we went over some of these earlier exercises, right? We went over and discussed styling, right, using very simple classes, right, for declaring. First we talked about declaring styles either directly on the element, which is, we said it was a no-no. That we can alternative, we can declare using the style tag, which is a little better, but it's also a no-no, right? And that we can instead, what we're going to do is the best the best option is to declare the styles in a completely different file, right? And then just link it, from within the HTML that you want to apply it, right? And we demoed that, right? We demoed all that. We talked about selectors, using ID selectors or class selectors that allow us to declare kind of like a variable that collects several style properties, right? That we can then go and then apply that style wherever we want by referencing that class, right? And then so whatever we want, maybe blue on yellow, for instance, right? Foreground blue on a yellow background. We can then just go on and start painting, with this style anywhere that we want, right? By applying that token, that symbol, that variable, applying it as a class, right, to the HTML elements that we want to paint. Yes. Anyway, we cover that. We cover also the relationship between elements, right? Parent-child relationships. But then the more interesting part we discussed was flex, right? And float. And so we wrote a couple of examples on how to do that, right? So float, we fully covered float. We fully also covered, we use, the float can be used for creating these kinds of layouts. And we discussed Flexbox as a better, more modern alternative, right, for laying out things horizontally. Okay. Question in the chat. Can we declare a variable in CSS and use it in another CSS file? Variables. Yes, you can declare variables. So for instance, let's see if I remember the syntax. So for instance, say this yellow, you want to use this yellow, right? So you can, in your CSS, so lectures, is this a lecture? Yeah, okay. So in this lecture, you have this index.css, which is, I believe, this one. You think declare variables. I think it's you say root, is it? I forget, root. There we go. And in here you can declare variables. And for instance, you can say yellow, right? And then you give it a value, right? And then when you want to reuse this this variable, you can, for instance, actually, I think we're not using any of these, right? You can say, background, BG yellow #2, right? And then you can say var. You say the keyword var, and then you can reference that variable here. Okay. Then whenever you want to use that, right, and you can color something. Like for instance, this is Introduction to CSS. It's this one, right? Oh, this is already yellow. Say flex here. You can apply this class, and what do we say? BG yellow 2. And notice that we apply that color here, and then you can just change the variable. You can change the variable. So instead of yellow, you say some other color. Maybe this is green here. And you save that, and then you refresh. Notice that now you can change the variable, which is a nice technique that allows you to declare these variables, and then later on, right, if you want to change the look and feel of a website, you can easily just redefine the variables, right, and boom, you have an immediate change in look and feel. Now, I don't know if you meant if you meant these classes. Right, maybe is that what you meant? The classes can be referenced from the index document. The index document that loads them can reference those classes. I call them variables. I didn't mean to call them actual variables. They're declared as classes that you can then reference using the class attribute, and they can be referenced from any number of HTML documents as long as you include them. Right, but there's no such thing as a class referencing other classes. You can have in animations. You can declare like keyframes, and then have things animate from one set of properties to another set of properties, and then you can create classes that reference those keyframes. Right, we're not covering those, but certainly that would be a form of reference, like you're like you might be referencing, like you might be mentioning. Anyway, that's kind of off topic. So yeah, so now that we've had a chance to practice Flex and laying out things in horizontal layout like this using Flex, I'd like to revisit our Canvas. So Canvas, we have been using tables for implementing our layout like this, right? So I'd like to revisit some of these, right? The home, the assignments, the assignment, right? Or the grades, okay? The assignments. How do we implement this assignments? Do we already use the assignments for this? Let's see, Canvas, courses, assignments, assignment editor, screen. Okay, no, we're still using table. Instead, we're not changing the border to 1, so we didn't see the actual table, right? So what I like to do is refactor this so that we no longer use tables. Instead, we can use the we can use Flex. Okay, so let's see what that would look like, right? So let's do one of these. So let's go. Okay, we're in the home, right? So let's refactor this using Flex now. All right, so let's do that. And we do have an example of that, right? And so let's use that example. The example is here, right, where we declare this this div, right, with these flex row container, and we declare one to be a flex grow, right? And those are declared in, I believe, in styles. Do we declare here? Apparently not. Is it in index? Oh, there it is. Yeah, these are the classes, right? So let's try that out, right? Let's see if we can get that going. All right. All right. Yeah. So let's take a look at the there's the assignment editor. Let's open up the home and let's refactor that using these classes here. Now these classes, where did we declare? Okay, we declared in lecture, right? So instead, let's create a global style sheet, right, where we can declare these classes, and so that they're not only available here in the lecture, right? Let's make it a more global style sheet. Okay, so do we declare one already? Looks like we haven't. All right, so I'm just going to copy this styles.css. I'm going to put it a little higher here so it's available everywhere, right? And it already has a few useful classes, as well as in the lecture we declare these few here. Anything else that we might want from here? No. So I'm going to declare I'm going to just copy these, and I'm just going to put them in this global style sheet, right? So that we can use it all throughout our labs, through our Canvas, right? Wherever we want to use this. Also, I haven't been consistent in the naming, right? I did say that it's a good practice, right? That if you are creating your own library of classes, it's a good practice to follow some naming convention that makes it clear that these are your classes, right? That these are not somebody else's, a third-party set of classes, like you know, if you're using Material, or if you're using Bootstrap or Tailwind, right, or any of those other libraries, so that you can distinguish and quickly know that these classes are yours, right? So I'm gonna go ahead and just append in front of all these classes, right? WD, which I mean to it means, for me, it means web dev, right? So I know that these are classes that we've created for the web development course. Okay. All right, so we have that. So let's go to the courses and the home, right? And let's open up screen. And so we want to refactor this so that instead of tables, we're going to now have use Flex, right? Okay. So first of all, these are screens. These are full blown HTML documents, right, that are meant to be viewed in its entirety, as opposed to these snippets, right, that implement the UL list of hyperlinks for the Kanbas navigation. These are meant to be, code snippets where we can, play around, get it to work, and then once we're happy, we can copy the code snippet and then paste it in an actual, web page, right? So this screen is actually missing some of the standard HTML syntax, right? So let me fix that right now, right? And then just move that like that. Okay. All right, so that's much better. So we can now load and link that style sheet that we've declared those classes. Right? We can say link, and we can bring the screen. I think it's at the root. I think it's the root, right? Let's see. Is it? No. Oh, did I close it? Oh man, I didn't mean to close it. I'm trying to load this one, right? And I think this is at the root, isn't it? Yeah, it's public. Yeah, it's at the root. Okay. So let me open up that course. This one. Okay. So let's load. I think that's correct. I think that's correct. So let's reload it. Let's see if it's loading. We can inspect and view if it in the sources. We can look at the sources here and see if it loaded. Yeah, there it is. Right there it is. So it is loading correctly. It is loading. Perfect. So one of the things that we might want to do in that style sheet is declare a global font, right, that we want to use for our entire website, right? So for instance, we might say that grab the body elements, right? This body element, and then everything inside of it, everything that's inside, I want a font, a particular font, right? So let's do that. We can say star. That means everything. This is a pattern match that matches everything under the body, right? And so, maybe we want margin 0. Notice that we have some margin all around. Okay, so maybe we don't want that. We want to reset it and set everything to 0. Otherwise, notice that we're going to have a problem implementing this column here, because there's some, there's no spacing, there's no white spaces between the, this column and the edge of the screen, right? And so the way we could do that is clearing any margins, because right now, right, by default, you'll notice that if you navigate to the body, notice that the body has an 8-pixel wide margin. See that highlighted in salmon all around the screen? So we want to, so that's not going to allow us to get any closer to the edge, right? So we would like to override that and say, oh, I want that to be 0, right? We can say margin 0, right? So that we are flush, right? And we can implement this kind of flush mechanism here, right? So yeah, that's a good option, margin 0. So that's body. That's body. But then everything under body, we want to set a fonts. So let's set a fonts family. So by default, the font is Times New Roman, this one. I'm going to override it. I'm going to say that I want to be Arial, right? So I'm going to save that. And so if I refresh this, notice that now we have the Arial font, right, in this whole screen. Okay. So yeah, so let's also create the divs that we want to create, that we want to use to implement the row that has multiple columns, but implemented using Flex, not tables, right? So it would be div that would have several columns underneath here. You're going to have here the Kanbas navigation here. Then under here, you're going to have the course navigator, right? Then under here, you're going to have the modules, right? And then finally, on the last one, you're going to have the status, right? And we have that down here. So we can just copy this into here, right? But first, I want to demonstrate that this can be laid out horizontally, right? So notice that by default, it doesn't render. Oh, there it is. Notice that by default, it doesn't render horizontally. It renders like a block elements, like divs. Divs all render, in a div in block. And we can change the color just so you can follow, right? We can say, class, WD, black background. What colors do we have? What colors did we declare? Okay, we declared blue, right? So, oh, this is foreground. We don't have any background colors. Oh, yeah, we do. Okay, so color blue. So let's copy that. So BG color blue. Okay, notice that it takes up the whole width of the screen. And this one, I'm only coloring so that you can see what's happening, right? WD, BG color yellow. We have that in yellow. We have class WD BG color red. Do we have red? I guess so, yeah. And status, do we have any other colors? Oh, we have green. Okay, so let's do green. I'm just going to copy that and do green here. There we go. So we got 4 colors. Now, when we apply this to be a flex, right, we can say class WD flex. Is that what I called it? I forget. There it is, right? Notice that now it becomes a, laid out in horizontally as if it were an inline elements, right? But we want modules to expand, right? We want to take up the whole, there's a whole bunch of free space over here, right? So we want modules to stretch. We want all the other ones to stay a particular width, which we haven't set yet. But we want the modules to stretch, right? Grow to take up whatever additional space we have. Let's see a quick question on the chat. How is it says how is using body star different from just body? So body would only target that one element body only, right? Excuse me. Whereas body star says everything under body. All the children recursively on the body. Can you explain more about how do we call the HTML elements in CSS file? Yeah, so what we're doing here is that we have these rules, right? What they're doing is that when the browser parses this, we're telling look for all the elements whose class, right? Whose class is WDBG color blue, and then apply. When you find an element who has that class, apply this background color, right? So this is a pattern on the left side, right? That is used to pattern match, as it traverses the tree, and if it finds that note, it will apply it. Yeah, you can. I mean, the naming convention of the class of the CSS class. Oh, the naming convention is that we, again, this is arbitrary, right? We can choose a naming convention that we agree amongst ourselves in the team that, and it's a convention, right? There's no way to verify this or like a compiler that's gonna not compile if you don't apply it. It's a naming convention. That everybody in the team in the web dev course is going to use WD, right? If you work at CNN and you're doing your websites, then you might all agree that you will prepend all the classes that are written in that particular institution as CNN, right? So it's just a convention, just to quickly, when you're looking at a class, when you're looking at this particular class, you say, oh yeah, I wrote that, right? Or my team wrote it. We own that class, as opposed to other classes that you might have purchased from third-party vendors. Right. This is very much like you would use in other programming languages, right? Like Java or C# or whatnot. That when you write a class, typically you put it inside of a package, right? And that package, uniquely puts it in the context, in the name, in a namespace, right? That is uniquely part of your organization, right? Typically, those names are based on like a domain name or some kind of URL that you own, that your company owns, right? And so that namespace is, that this belongs to you, right? It doesn't belong to anyone else, because domains are unique, and usually you purchase these, right? And there's a way of ownership. Direction, yeah. So Flex allows you to have direction either as a row that will render it horizontally, or also you can configure it to render vertically as columns, as a column that has a directionality vertical, right? So here we're configuring it to be horizontally, right? So yeah, so this one we can grow, right? So I think we call it grow, yeah, grow flex grow 1. And so now what this does, notice that modules expands to take up the unoccupied space, right? Whatever was there. And it if it can shrink and can grow, it can stretch with the rest of the content. So yeah, so there we go. So here we could start filling out, right, and move some of the content that we already have in the table over to these placeholders, right? So for instance, we could just grab the UL that we had here, right, and just put it in here, because we know that's the Kanbas, right? We can take the content that we have for the course navigator, right, and just drop it in there, paste that in there, and then we had the content inside the this week 1, week 2, right, all the way down to here, I believe. We could put it in the 3rd column here. We can paste it in there. And I don't know that we had anything for course status. Yeah, we have some course status, and we can put that in here. All right. Now, if we refresh, notice that there we have it. Right, we have our 4 columns. And notice that we don't need the table anymore, right? We could just throw away the table, right? And we have successfully replaced the implementation of using tables with this implementation of using Flex. Okay. All right, excellent. Yeah, so let's keep going. Let's start styling some of these things. Right. So let's see. So first, let's style this this Kanbas navigator. And so if you remember, I had created individual snippets that allowed me to to work independently, right, with this code snippet, so that once I felt comfortable and happy with this implementation, I could just copy this and just paste it wherever I want, right? So let's do that. So let's put this here on the side, right? And we can let's put this here on the right hand side, and on the left, like that, side by side, so that we can work and see our progress, right? So let's look at the Kanbas navigator, which is this one. So what do we want to do here? So we want to style this to look black background, have a particular particular look and feel, right? So we already did some of it, like styling the font already in a style sheet. No, so let's bring that in. Notice that I'm not using the entire HTML document here, because I know that this is it's just a code snippet, right? So I'm only bringing in enough so that this will work. So I'm linking the styles. The styles, I believe, is up one, up another, I think, maybe. Yeah, styles. There we go. So that one has the fonts. See that? It redefined the fonts to be Arial. What else do we need? Let's see. What else do we need? So I might define here some CSS that is specific. So this styles has fonts which is common to everybody, right? All the screens are going to have the same font. But I might have some styles that only pertain to the Kanbas navigation, right? So I'm going to create an index here, right, that only pertains to the Kanbas navigation. So for instance, in here, I might say that the background is black, right? And that's only true for the Kanbas navigation, right? So let's do that. So here, I might start naming a few things here. I might say that this is the Kanbas navigation. So I can say class, and I give it a name, WD Kanbas navigation, right? And then in my index, right, I might say that there's a class called Kanbas navigation for which I'm going to set the background color to be black, like that. See that? And then I can load that index file here. I can say link and load the index file. And so if I refresh, notice that indeed it gives me a black background. Right now, before I do that though, before I do that, let's work on something else first. So let me break that for a second so it doesn't work. Okay. First, we might want to style the list itself. Like for instance, I don't want those bullets, right? So let's style that. So we can say that under the Kanbas navigator, under the WD Kanbas navigation, there is a line item that I don't want the bullets, right? So we can say that the list style is none, right? So we can turn off the fact that these are going to render like bullets. So we can refresh that. List style none. Did I? Oh, maybe the UL. List style none. I thought it was list style none. Maybe I'm forgetting it. List style none. List style. List style. You can change the square. You can change it to different things, right? List style. It is list style, isn't it? UL. Oh, it's on the UL, not on the LI. It's the UL. Okay. Yeah, so let's move this here. There we go. There we go. Right. So that and let's not change the color black so that you can see that we can turn off the we can turn off the bullets. All right. So yeah, so let's refresh this. There we go. So we can turn off the bullets. We can also turn off the padding. Notice that if we inspect this, we'll notice that the if you hover over the UL, right, notice that on the left side, right, on the left side, we have some margins and paddings around. See that this padding? right, at the UL on the left side. So we can turn that off as well at the UL side. So we can say padding 0 all around. If there's any padding around, so we can refresh. Notice that now puts it stuck on the left side. And we can also turn off the hyperlinks. Notice that there's a, you have some color there, and I think the assignment asks us for this to be white, right? Also, no underlines, doesn't have to look like a hyperlink. So we can turn that off by going to the hyperlink, UL under LI under A, the brand, the anchor, right? We can say that we want the foreground to be white, the color, no decoration, meaning I don't want the underlines. And display block, no, doesn't have to be blocked. Padding, no. Well, maybe some padding. I'm not going to change the color just yet, otherwise it will be white on white and you won't see it. So let's refresh. So there it is, right? We added some padding. Do we need some padding? Maybe not. We need the padding. We might need margins below it, right? So now we can bring back the background black, so you could see and then we can make the foreground white. Right, we can make it white. Also, the width of the UL, I believe it's the assignment asks us that the width of the whole list should be not wider than 80 pixels. So let's do 80 pixels. So it's 80 pixels. So the font, maybe it's a little bit too big, and we might want to center it. So inside of the line item, so we could say, WD Canvas line item, we can center it, right, to be centered, right? So we can say center it. Also, the text might be a little bit too big, so we can make it a little bit smaller. So maybe we can say that the text, the font size. Now you can specify exact pixels. You can specify exact pixels, or you can specify relative. Like 1 EM means relative, doesn't change anything, right? But if you make it a little smaller, 0.8, right, it's going to make it 20% smaller. So you can use padding, right? Like padding all around, and also maybe add some spacing above and below with margins, right? Like you can put like a margin below me, at the bottom, right, of another 10 pixels, right? So it's spreading it out a little bit. I guess that's it, right? I mean, obviously we would still have to have the icons, right, with font awesome and whatnot, right? But once we're happy with this, right, and I guess we could add a few other things, count. Other things might be, our calendar, right? So this would be Canvas calendar, which we don't have. We might have messages, which we don't have. So we can have, a whole bunch of other things that hopefully, slowly but surely it should look something like that, right? Or inbox history, blah, 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 blah. We can also configure. Okay, there's a question in the chat. When we define widths here, is it dynamic? No, it's static, right? It's always that. I mean, we defined it as static. Will it work the same way if we open a website mobile? It'll be exactly the same width, but on mobile, we would actually want it to hide that entire column, right? And we'll learn how to do that. We're going to be using classes defined by Bootstrap, right, to hide or show content based on the width of the screen. So on the screen, we would hide the column entirely. Okay. So this right? If you are in a particular place, like in the course or account or dashboard, we would want to highlight that particular item, right? So how do we do that? Well, we could, we can try and see what it looks like. If I highlight, I want to highlight dashboard, we can see what the DOM looks like. So we want to highlight maybe, that's the hyperlink. This is the line item. We could highlight it by making the background white for that particular line item, right? We can say, background color, white, right? And then the foreground color would have to be something else, right? I don't know. I think maybe red color. Oops. Color red. Oops, like that, right? Oh, okay, no, but that's the line item. We have to change it for the hyperlink, right? So the hyperlink, we want to change that color to be red, right? Color red, like that, right? So what we can do is we can declare a class that we can turn on that particular line item as selected or active. We can say class WD active. And what that does in our index, we could do that, .wd Kanbas line item, right, that has a class of active, WD active, then the background color is going to be white, right? And then the hyperlink that is inside of a line item with the active class A, then we can say that the color is going to be red, right? So that now if we refresh, notice that, yep, we highlighted it. And now we can highlight anyone we want, right, by just applying this class, right? We can apply maybe here. And notice that now we have two selected, but obviously this wouldn't be the case. We would only highlight, right, in the particular screen that we are actually in. For the styling for anchors, could it be without li when referring it to it in the CS? Yes, we could. We could have done this. Well, actually, no, because we need the active, right? We need the, somebody above me that has the active, then the anchor becomes red. Right, and we want to make the distinction of when it's not active, it renders white. The one I wrote earlier, which one? This one? Is this one you meant? Line 22. Oh, okay. So the question I think is, do I actually need li? No, I don't need li. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, it would work just fine like that. Yeah, it would work just the same. Yep. Right here we do need it because, right, we want to select the particular line item, right, and then the behavior would spill over to the anchor underneath it. Yep. All right, excellent. So now that we have that, right, and the icons, we don't have the icons, but this is good enough. We could just copy this. We could copy this, right, as a template, right, and head over to the home screen, right, and replace our Canvas navigator here. We can paste it in there. We do need to bring out that index file we wrote specifically for the Canvas navigator, right? We can say, link. There is a particular style sheet that is under the Canvas navigation, right? And then in there we have an index.css, right? And that's what we have, right? There we go. That's what we have so far. And then in here, obviously, we don't have two that are selected, so we're going to remove one of them. Like that. And we could make this. Why is that space up there? What is that space? Do we add some padding around? Oh, UL has some margins above it. Interesting. What do we add that? What do we add that 16? Where is this from? This 16. Who adds this 16? UL? No. LI? No. Who's adding that 16? What is the convention of when to use padding and when to use margin? So padding is spacing inside, whereas margins is spacing between, right? So that if you, like for instance, if you have a rectangle, you want to get away from another item, then you would use margin, right? But padding is part of the content, right? So for instance, you can change the color of the padding, but you can't change the color of the margin, right? So the margin is always transparent. So it's always white space in between elements as opposed to inside the content. So one is inside the borders and the other one is outside of the borders. Okay. Yeah, where does this 16 come from? Wait a minute. Margin 16. Where does that come from? Blah, 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 blah. Is this one? No. Is this one? No. Can we turn off the margin to be 0? There we go. I'm going to just turn it off. I'm going to go in the index, in the canvas navigation. I'm just going to say that the margins is 0. There we go. There we go. We fixed that. We also might want to turn off this bluish color here. Where did I put 1EM? Where did I put 1EM? Where am I using 1EM? I don't see that I'm using it anywhere. All right, whatever. So another thing that I might do, yeah, probably. What I might do is remove this this purplish bluish background, right, in the screen, right? So this I could remove. So I'm going to leave that to you. So another thing that we could do is this the styling for this navigator, right? Like the navigation, the assignment suggests that navigation looks something like this, right? Right. So we can go and take a look at the styling for the navigation. Kanbas, blah, 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 account navigator. Okay, this one is looks like this, right? Looks like that, where you have these red hyperlinks. Yeah, like that, right? Notice that you have red hyperlinks. There's some margins in between. That the selected one is black, but the not selected one is red, right? And the one that are selected has this bar on the left side, and there's some margins in between the canvas navigator and the course navigator, right? So let's style that on its own, right? And then we can copy and paste it in there. So that would look like what? Let's see. Right, we can navigate to that. It's the course navigator. I think it was course navigation. So that's what it looks like. So we'll do the same thing, right? We're going to turn off the bullets, right? So we can implement can open up the course navigation here and declare a CSS in here like that, index.css that is specific to the course navigation. It could load the styles, the global styles. We can say link can load the styles, the global styles, which declares the fonts. Right there, it is. There's the fonts. But then also we're going to load the local index that is specific to this one component, which is local, right? And in there, we could declare things such as the bullets, empty bullets. We're gonna name this. We're gonna say class. This is a WD course navigation, right? And then in here we can say that list is gonna have list none. Yes, definitely list none. Padding 0 with margin 0, sure. And let's make this. I think it's a little wider, right? And the background color is actually white. Right? The background color should be white, I believe. Right. So let's remove all that. Again, the anchors under there. The anchors. Let's see. Question: when we reference CSS files, if we don't define the name and just define the directory under which it is, since its name is under, will it not? No, because that works for HTML documents, not CSS documents. Yeah, it won't know what you actually want, right? That only works if you for index files, and that's configurable in the server. You can say the server, what is the default file if somebody doesn't ask for an explicit file, right? And by default, it's configured to be index.html, but you can change it to be home.html or whatever, right? But by default, out of the box, servers are configured to do that behavior only for the index.html documents, not CSS. All right, so the anchors, right? The anchors, we want to change the color to be, let's see, what are they supposed to look like? All right, the anchors are supposed to be red. So the color should be red. Right, no text decoration. There it is. But if they're selected inside of a line item, so we say, WD line item dot active, WD active, right? We want to have the, let's see, we want a border on the on the left side, right? You can say border left, right? We can say that we want 1 pixel solid black. The ones that are selected, right? And then the anchor under there of selected, the anchor, we want the color to be of the text to be black, right? Color to be black. So that if we activate one of these, we can say we're in the assignments. We can say class WD active, right? Notice that we can highlight the hyperlink. So, but let's add some margins to the left, right? So let's add some margins on the left. So margin on the left to be maybe, I don't know, some 40 pixels. Oh, maybe that's too much. 20 pixels. And then some padding. See the difference, right? Here we're adding some white space between whatever's on the left and our our UL. But then internally we want to be away from the border, right? Some pixels. So we can say that the line item, when it's all line items actually, regardless of whether they're active or not, right? We do want some margin, I'm sorry, some padding on the left side, right, to be, maybe 10 pixels, right? So it's not 10 pixels. And we also want spacing above and below me, right? Some spacing above and below me, bottom, right, of 10 pixels, so we can widen the space in between, maybe above and below me. So margin, bottom and top, right, above and below me. So yeah, so this is looking pretty good. And so we can go ahead and maybe copy this. We can copy this and then maybe bring it over in the home screen, right? And just drop it in here, right, under the on the course navigator. We can say paste, and we'll need to load the index file for the course navigator, right? Course navigator, did it load it? Yes, my AI is pretty good. So if we go back, right, and we refresh, almost, because we have this background, right, that kind of ruins the whole thing. So yeah, so let's remove those colors. So let's remove this black, this blue here. Do we have black? Maybe this could be useful if we have black. No, we don't have black. So that might be a good thing to declare here, right? Oh, oops. Oh. I closed it. Home screen. So in the styles, right, just like we have these colors, maybe it's useful to have black. So we have here black, and here black, so that we can go in here and then declare this to be black, and so this whole thing is rendered as black, right? And then this color, we don't need it because it's already white. And we have that white. And then we can do the the modules in the middle, right, and render those. Okay. Right, did that make sense? All right. Okay, so let's take a short break, and then we can come back and maybe style some more. Right, what we're trying to do is to make this look a little bit like that, right? Okay, not quite, but again, the assignment says that it doesn't have to be pixel perfect, right? That you're making a concerted effort at at making this look as close as possible as this looks like, right? And no, this is not looking too bad. They do ask us for particular screens, some sizes, right? So like for instance, the width of this is to be between 75 and 85. Also, I'm zoomed in. That's really what it looks like at 100%, right? We have that. We have these hyperlinks, right, that presumably should match somewhat this, right? The home here. So home, assignments, something like that, right? So it's more or less the same, right? Something similar. Okay, see, notice this border, right? This border, we don't have any padding above and below me, right? And that's why this is so short. If we change that, right? If we go back and change the style for the course navigator, right? And we make this add some padding above and below me, that's going to add to the height, and the border is going to be taller too, right? So we can say padding to the top. We can add some 10 pixels. We can add some padding to the bottom, and it'd be another 10 pixels, right? So notice that, yes, I added some spacing, but notice that the border grew as well. And we can make the border on the left a little more pronounced, maybe 2 pixels, a little more pronounced so you can actually see it. Okay. All right. When we come back, we'll do some more styling, and maybe we can introduce the Bootstrap. Okay. All right. I will take a short break, and we'll come back right after this. Right after these messages. Okay. Yeah. So let's continue. All right. So yeah. So there's a couple of things that I to cover. One was being able to add fonts, right, and icons to this. Right? And so we're going to be, and the other one is Bootstrap. I'd like to discuss adding third-party libraries to this, right? And now the library that I'm mentioning that I'd like to be able to take a look at is Font Awesome, right? So Font Awesome is a collection of icons that you can use in your projects, and it's open source. They do have a library of free icons that you can choose, as well as a paid for version. So that if you're looking for calendar icons, right? There's a whole bunch of icons that you can use. A lot of them are for free, and there's tons of them that are paid for, right? You have to pay a license fee for this, right? And you can filter, right, if you want free like that, right? And if you now you can, there's a couple ways that you can use it. The ways to install it locally on your local machine, right? And also that you can embed in projects such as React or Vue.js or Angular and whatnot, right? So for the web, they do have instructions on how to install it, right? That you can download it, install it locally on your machine. They also have older versions that are free. Okay. One particular way that you can install it is using a CDN. So you can say font awesome CDN, and let's see, font awesome CDN. Okay, so this one you need to ask for font is it easy no downloading or installing awesome embed code. Download because I want to manage and host copy, using Sans advanced packages, or you can just download and then include the link, the CSS from your source code, right? Or you can install using npm. You can say npm install font awesome. Using a package manager. Let's see. Using blah 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 sonar, configure npm, set up a registry. Okay, these are all the paid for versions. I'm looking for a free version. Okay, there it is. So font awesome. Yeah, this is a very much older version, right? But it's totally free, and it can do the job, right? So let's install this. So let's copy this, and we can go back to our browser, our server here, right? We can do npm install font awesome. So this will download the 4.7 version of font awesome, which is pretty old, but we can take a look at it. You can go back to all the versions here. And where's 4.7? 4. There it is, 4.7. And you can see the free icons in here. So for instance, you can look for calendar. And I mean, it's fine. You could use this calendar. And the way you include it in your source code is by using this, you copy this, right? This I class FA calendar, right? So now that we installed it, this gets copied into the node modules. You can look for it. So font awesome. There it is. Font awesome right here. And so we can copy all this content, right? The CSS, fonts, so we need these two. We need these at least these two. Let's copy that. And now let's go back. And under the public directory, we're going to create a directory here where we're going to put everything that doesn't belong to us, right? That's third-party stuff. One common place to put it is in a directory called vendors, right? That these are, libraries, somebody else's libraries, right? Or libs. Lib would be also a name, right? So lib. And here we can create a folder for each one of the libraries. So we can say, font awesome. And in here, we're going to paste those two libraries, right? The CSS and the fonts. And now if you want to use that, you can, let's see, let's play around with this, right? This sidebar. Yeah, so not that sidebar, the other one, courses, the Kanbas navigator, Kanbas navigation. Oh, it's not running. So npm start. So the Kanbas navigation, it's this one, right? And so let's bring in a couple of icons right in here. So let's play around with that. So let's open up the Kanbas navigation. Oh no, not the JavaScript. Kanbas navigation, the HTML, that one, yeah. And let's put some icons in here. So to bring in that font awesome library, we need to link it. We're gonna say link rel blah blah blah, and I think I put it under. I think it was vendors, right? Vendors, then font awesome, and then CSS, and then let's see, I forget. Navigator, font awesome. Oh, lib, font awesome, CSS, and then one of these guys. Yeah, font awesome CSS, right? So this will be font awesome.css. All right, let's see if this works. Let's refresh. Also, makes no sense that these two to be active, so I'm just going to have just one of them active. There we go. Let's look at the inspect it and see if we see the library being loaded. We look at the sources, and yeah, there it is, right? Under font awesome, we see the CSS being loaded. Okay, is there a question on the chat? Let's see. Did you copy those two folders from? Yes, I did. Yep, I did. When we get to React.js, we won't need to do that copy. We can reference stuff inside of node modules without copying outside of the folder, but we don't have that yet. So I physically moved it over, right, or copied it. All right, so now that we have that, we can reference one of those icons, right? Those older icons by copying this. So I'm just going to copy that. I'm going to head over here, and do we have a calendar? Yeah, so we have a calendar. So I'm going to put the icon in here. So there's the text calendar, right? And there's the icon calendar. So I'm going to paste that, and let's see how that renders here. There it is. See that? There's the icon. Now, is it supposed to look white? I don't remember. Let's see what the assignment says. Is it supposed to, no, it's supposed to be red, right? It's supposed to be red. So, so what we could do, right, is that, let's save that. In the index CSS for this navigator, right, we can say that under the anchor, right, the icon, under the anchor, we can say, WD Kanbas, blah, 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 blah. And under the anchor, we have an icon, I, and the color is red. There we go, right? So let's refresh, and there it is, right? So our icon is red. Also, the size, we can make it a little bigger, right? Quite a bit bigger, actually. And we can say that the font size is 50% bigger. So it's a little bigger. What else? It's kind of flush, so we can make a little space in between. So we can maybe say that the margins below, maybe 10, maybe 5 pixels is enough, right? There is some spacing there. Now for the dashboard, because it's selected, now it's I don't know, is it still red? Okay, it's still red, so it doesn't matter. Okay, so for the dashboard, you have this signage. Let's see if we can find something like that in Font Awesome. So if we go to Font Awesome and look for like a meter. Let's see, meter. No. Measure. No. Let's see if we could find something useful here. Something like an odometer. Odometer? No. Let's see, anything that could be measured, like a measurement. Anything useful here? Okay, like a dashboard. Oh, even the dashboard is perfect. Let's copy that. So we can put that in the dashboard right there, right? So put the icon there. And then come back here and see how it renders. There it is. So it looks like a dashboard. Maybe we could make it a little bigger, right? Or dial. Dial would have been good too. Yeah, very good. And maybe twice as big, 2em. There we go. So yeah, so play around with that. Okay, so if I go back here and I copy the content of this UL, I can bring it over, right, to my home screen, home, right, and I can replace the Kanbas navigator. I can just paste it in there so that if I move back here and I refresh, it doesn't work. Oh, right, because we have to load the Font Awesome library to the home screen. Load the link so that we have the icons, right? All right. Yeah. So please, right, use those icons, play around with them, add them there. Again, it doesn't have to be pixel perfect, right? So yeah, so let's talk about the dash using Bootstrap, right? Bootstrap to style some of our things. For instance, grades, right? Grades, we would like to restyle this so that, for instance, we can restyle that table that looks awful right now, right? So let's apply what we already know to implement, right? The layout, right? And then we can move the table where it goes, and then we can style the table, right? So let's do that. So much of this is going to be the same, right? A lot of the same stuff here, right? The body, the flex container, probably that too. Probably can copy most of this, right? And then move the table into place, right? So we can copy this. We can bring this over to the grades, screen, right? And I'm just gonna paste this in here, right? And then one of these columns should have the actual grades, right? Let's see. Yeah, it should be this one, right? It should be this one right here. I'm just gonna copy this all the way down to all these grades, right? All these students, all the way down to the table. So I'm gonna just copy that. And I'm going to put this in the, I'm going to replace this right here, right? I'm going to replace that right there. Put that in there. And I should not have the last column, the course status. There we go. And now we can just throw away the table down below and refresh this. And there we go, right? So we're kind of where we left off before, but grades would be, courses should be highlighted, right? Courses should be highlighted. So for instance, where we have the dashboard highlighted, right? This would not be active. Right? It would be courses, right? Courses, this one, right? So I'm going to activate that like that. And then grades would be active here. So this would be not this one, but that one, right? Like that. So grades, so I'm in the right place. So same thing for home, right? When I'm in home, I would highlight the home and courses, but when I'm in grades, I would highlight, courses and grades. Yes. So anyway, so notice that that this table is way too big. See that? I made that deliberately big because I wanted to make a point that we should avoid this horizontal scroll bar. We should avoid that at all costs, right? Because that's terrible, right? It should not be like that. I'm also just gonna remove this red color here. There we go. So yeah, so let's see how we can fix that. How we can fix that, right? And so to do that, we're going to introduce the Bootstrap library. Bootstrap library has tons of really cool ways to make content look presentable, professional, right? And as well as classes that are going to allow us to make it very easy to add responsiveness, right? So that certain content takes up certain number of columns and in widescreens, but as it becomes smaller and smaller and smaller, right, we want to hide content, disappear it, right, and show a different layout. Okay, so let's do that. So if we go to Bootstrap, right, you can install Bootstrap using npm install Bootstrap. So let's do that. So we can say, let me stop this. You can say npm install Bootstrap, Okay. And same thing, right? This gets installed in node modules, Bootstrap, and we're just going to copy a few things from here. We only really care about the CSS, right? Actually, one CSS we care about, only one file in here, really. And it's either this one or this minified version. So the difference is that they're logically the same, right? But this one can be read by human beings. You could read through this, right? Kind of make some sense out of it. You still have white spaces, right? So that human beings can read through this. Whereas this is a minified version where all the spaces have been stripped out, right? There's no white spaces, right? This is not meant to be read by a human being. Okay, really, really hard to read through this. Both of them are logically the same. This one is smaller, right, in size, so it's faster to download. So in production, definitely this is what you should use, right? But if you're going to be actually reading through it, right, then this one should be. So I'm just going to copy the minified version. That's all really we need. So I'm going to put this in our lid folder. I'm going to create another folder. So new folder, and I call Bootstrap. So Bootstrap. I'm just going to paste the CSS in there. Again, when we move over to React.js, we're not going to need to do that, right? We're going to be able to reference libraries that are installed in node_modules. Once we have Bootstrap, we can take a look at what can you do with tables. So if you go to tables, right? So just by applying the table class to a table, right? The table class, already looks prettier, right? Just like that. Right? So for instance, if we go to the grade screen, right, and we have this table, we can remove that, the width 100, and so right now it looks like that. Oops! Oh, we need to restart the server. npm start. There we go. Right, so it looks like that. Now, by just applying the class, oh, we have to link it, right? We have to link the Bootstrap. Let's say, link, and this would be in lib bootstrap, and then this is bootstrap min, is it? I think bootstrap.min.css. Okay, just by importing that, right, the font already changed, right? The look and feel already changed a little bit. And but we can apply to the table, just a table class already makes it look so much neater, right? So we say class table, right? So let's go back and did it do anything? Do we have an overview, blah, 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 any table base, blah, blah, blah. I don't know if it applied it. Did it apply it? So one of the things that we're trying to fix, right, is the fact that the table is so long, so wide, right, that it's adding these this wide this scroll bar, right, at the bottom. And so if you go down and you see responsive tables, you'll notice that this table, for instance, is so wide, right, that it doesn't fit. And notice that it was able to, instead of adding scroll bars to the entire screen, which is a no-no, right? It's a terrible design, right? It's only adding the scroll bars to the table, right? And the way you implement it is by wrapping your table with a div of class, with a class of table responsive, right? So let's try that. So we can wrap our table with a div, and let's close it below it. Oh, why do we have so many tables? Oh, we applied it to the wrong table. This is the student names. It's this one. Class table. Let's see what's going on. There we go. I was applying it to the one above. There we go. So that looks a little prettier. But then here, right, here's we're going to wrap this particular table, right, with a div that, which is going to now not add the scroll bars. What happened? Table responsive. Oh, is this the wrong version of Bootstrap? Maybe I'm loading the wrong version of Bootstrap. What version is this? Bootstrap, let's see. It's version 5.3.2. It's version 5.3.2. And this is 5.3. So this must be it. What's going on? Why are you not being responsive? Why are you not being responsive?
We added one more div at the top, I guess that's.
Did I miss a div?
At the first table, before one, I guess we added one more.
I closed it, right? Yeah, I closed it. It's closed. Why are you not? Did I add other classes in here? Table, class, table. Yeah, no.
For the student names,
I'm sorry?
I think for the student names, the about table that we have, line 68, that needs to be closed.
68. This table is with this table.
Okay, it's closed.
This table is that table. What's going on? Unless there's someone else adding that scroll bar? Anyone else adding the scroll bar? Is it this table at the top? Let me see. Let me remove this table for a second. No, what's going on? Oh, you know what might be happening? Probably this growth. No. Why are you not? Let's see. Move that. Plus style. Okay. Oh, okay. So I think Flex might be breaking it. See, it works just fine when it's not in Flex. Interesting. Okay. Style, display, Flex. Yeah, Flex breaks it. Interesting. Okay. All right. I have to figure out why how is tables broken because of because of Flex. Right. I'll research that and I'll post a solution to that. All right. All right. So the other thing I wanted to discuss is the capability of being able to hide and show different things on the screen based on the size of the screen, right? So for instance, Bootstrap has a display property, right? That allows you to, turn things off or turn things on, right? But also based on the size of the screen, right? So Bootstrap defines several default screen sizes, right, and gives them logical names such as extra large, right, or medium or small, right, and they are defined in their grid system, right? So let's look at the grid system just a quick. So this grid system defines the sizes of screens, right, as these. These are logical names for their screen sizes, and they're based on very common screen sizes for monitors, tablets, notebooks, right, and phones, right, mobile phones. So for instance, for them, an extra large screen is anything that has more than 1400 pixels. Extra large is anything in between 1200 and 1400. Large is 900 and 1200, and so on and so forth. So they define these thresholds, and then allows you to declare based on these naming conventions of SM, MD, LG, XL, and XXL, right? It allows you to declare these display properties followed, right, by these nomenclature, right, of whether it's large, mediums, small, extra large, and whatnot, right? So for instance, you can say dnone, means that you want to not display something, display none, right? Whereas dblock is you want to display it as in block and you want to actually show it, right? So by toggling between dnone and dblock, you can show something or not show something, right? But then so this is D none, meaning you never want to show it. And whereas D block is you always want to show it, right? But then you can be a little bit nuanced, right? And say, well, maybe I don't want to show it always or hide it always, right? You can say that I want to target a specific screen size, right? And I like to, show certain things when I have a large screen, but not show certain things when I have a small screen, right? So let's create a little exercise where we can play around with this idea, right? So let's go back to lectures, right? And in our index.html, I'm going to load our Bootstrap. So I'm going to this is CSS. I'm going to add another folder, call it Bootstrap. So Bootstrap, and where we can play with that idea, right? So let's create here an index.html. Right, and let's in here, let's link and bring the Bootstrap library. We'll say link href. We're gonna go lib, right? Then Bootstrap, then Bootstrap min. Yeah, that looks right. And then in here, we're just going to play around with Bootstrap, right? Bootstrap. So let's open up that lecture. Actually, let's create a link here. I believe we had created a link from our index page into our lecture. So that's our CSS lecture. I'm going to create another one here. And this is our Bootstrap lecture. Bootstrap. This is under Bootstrap. Bootstrap. Okay. So that we should be able to navigate and go to our root and then go down to our Bootstrap, and there's our Bootstrap, right? Okay. So yeah, so let's take a look at that. Right. So there we go. So in here, let's say I have here a an H2, and we're going to be talking about display classes, right? And so let's create here a div, and here we're going to say D block, right? So this one is going to show it's going to render as a block, which a div already renders as a block, right? And this is a D block. It always shows. So there it is. So it shows there. So it's always shows. But if we say D none, D none never shows. If I render it, notice it doesn't show, obviously. But what we want to be able to do is turn on and off this behavior depending on the size of the screen, right? So let's demonstrate that. So for instance, you can say D none, small screens, meaning I don't want to show this in a small screen, right? And the way it works is that it applies this that I don't want to show it starting at that screen and above. So if you say D none on a small screen, that's true for the small screens and above, small, medium, large, extra large, right? So you'll never see it beyond the small screen and above, right? Or if you say D none in large screens, it will show it fine below smaller screens, but when it gets to the large screens, it disappears, right? So yeah, so let's show here first the ones that appear or the ones that disappear. So D none, right? So let's see, we'll do a D none that never shows. This one never shows. never shows. And then we'll say D small none, right? Doesn't show for small screens and above. All right, so for instance, let me demonstrate that. It's this one right here, right? So first we'll need to go to 100% first so that we can see this. All right, so D none. So here we are at small screens or extra small. I'm in the smallest screen. As I try to get a little bigger, now I leave the extra small screens and I become just plain old small, and then it disappears, right? So for instance, if I make this a little bigger, poof, it's gone. See that? It goes away. But in small screens it appears, but in extra small screens it shows, right? But in small screens disappears, and then above it never shows again, right? Then you have one that in medium size screens. So this one doesn't show for medium screens and above. Right, so there it is. So it shows for, so these two show up for extra small screens. The first one disappears at small screens, but the medium stays. There it is. See, the medium stays up until, because I am in the small screen. Then if I go a little higher and I reach the medium size screen, poof, it's gone. And then and above. See that? You can see the size of the screen by using the inspector. You can bring up the inspector and just pop this into a separate screen. And as you move, as you resize, right, it prints up here the actual size of the screen. You can see the width and the height, right? So for instance, extra small, we are at 500 pixels, and when we reach small, the first one disappears, right? And you can see that defined here. Right, defined in the sizes. See that? Small is anything above 576 pixels and above. That's small, and anything below that is extra small. Okay. So depending on those sizes, right? Depending on those sizes, where'd it go? This one. So when I reach 570 something. There we go. See that? Now I'm in the small screens. And then when I get to medium, I forget what medium is. Medium is 768, right? So if I go to all the way up to 768, I still see it. I still see it. When I get to 768, poof, it's gone. See that? Right. So now you can do the inverse. So D none is you're configuring when things disappear. With D block, you can configure when things appear. Right. So let me show you. So let's do a couple more. So D medium, you can do D. So small, medium, large. So doesn't show from large screens and above. And then there's extra large. Extra large for extra large screens. And then there's XXL. XXL, right? So extra large. Right. So let's see. Let's refresh. So there we go. So as we move this, right, they should disappear one at a time. Poof, it's gone. Then the large screen is gone. Then the extra large screen is gone, right? And then the extra large screen is gone. See that? Right? Now we can do the inverse. We can do the inverse, right? We can copy these. So this is D none. And whereas this is D block. That allows you, let's replace all these two with block. So these are the inverse. These appear, right? So this one, D block is always shows. So this always shows, right? SM block says this, no, so show. So it shows when it gets to the small screen and above. And this one show for medium screen and above. And this shows for large screens and above. And this show for extra large. And this show for extra large, right? Wait, huh? I think I got it wrong. Is it D block? D block? Did I get it wrong? Wait a minute. Oh. D block. The SM block. DSM block, right? DSM block, hide only D none. Yeah, block. Did I misspell it? D block. D block, DSM block. DSM block, yeah. Show for small screens and above. Show for medium screens and above. Oh, okay. So I need to, okay, use it in combination with the none, right? So if I turn it off first, like that, okay, I think it works in tandem. Okay, let's see. There we go. Okay, so it always shows. So as it grows, okay, it shows for the small screens and above, then shows the medium screens and above, then shows for, right? Notice that these are appearing as I go, right? Yeah, so they work in combination with the dnone. Yeah, so the dnone says, hey, never show. So turn it off, never see it. But when it gets to the small, then show it and above. This one too, right? It turns it off always up until it gets to the medium, and then it turns it on and shows it, right? So anyway, with these combinations, right, of dnone, DSM block, blah, blah, all these, we can go back to the home screen, right, to the home screen, and apply certain logic of when to show or hide things, right? So for instance, in the, right, if we go back to the Kanbas, right, and we go to the course and then home, wait a minute, home, and then screen. There we go. We wanted to, for instance, hide this right-hand side, you know, when we got to a certain size, right? Meaning it's always there, but when it gets to a particular screen size, it should not be there. Meaning when we are way, way, way small, right? Narrow, I don't want to show it. But then as I get wider and wider and wider, when I get to a particular size, then boom, I want to show it, which is exactly what we just did, no? Before in the lecture example, right? So we can do that. We can say this status screen here, which is green, you can say that I never want to show it, right? Well, we need to bring Bootstrap in. We need to load Bootstrap. So let's load Bootstrap. So we'll say link. It's gone, poof, right? But when I get to a particular screen size, I do want to bring it. I do want to show it, right? So for instance, we're going to decide which side. We can say, you know, D down when I get to the extra large right, I want to show it. Right, so as I get bigger and bigger, and I get to the extra large, there it is, right? It appears. But when I get to smaller than extra large, it disappears. Now, whether the size, it could be just on the large size. There it is. So for large and above, when I get to below large and medium size screens, right, I want to hide it, and it's gone. See that? Now, if I get narrower and narrower, I want to do the same thing for these, right? I want to do the same for this. So we're going to say that for these dashboard, the Canvas navigators. So here's the Canvas navigator, and I can say, I don't want to show you when you get to say, so let's see, I don't want to show you at the beginning, right? And I only want to show you when I get to a particular size, right? When I get to, medium size screen, then I want to show you. Let's see. So if I go below medium, it disappears. See that? Appears and then disappears. Appears and disappears. And I can do the same thing for, right? I can do the same thing for the course navigator, right? There we go. So now it disappears for both of them go away. When it gets big, a little bigger, then both of them appear. And as I get bigger and bigger, right, the status appears, right? So I can control when things appear and disappear based on the size of the screen using these classes, right? Which is pretty cool, right? Which is exactly what the assignment is asking you to do, right? The assignment is asking you that for the home screen, right? This home screen, you have the course status here on the right-hand side, again, laid out in using Flex or Float or whatnot, right? But then when you get beyond a particular size, poof, it disappears, right? The right-hand side disappears, but you still have the rest of the left-hand side. And then when you get below a particular screen size, both of them disappear. And instead, this menu appears, right? So that means that when we get to this screen, we need a menu at the top that only appears when you are small, right? So we could do that, right? We could put a menu here. This is that menu, right? Menu when screen is too small. That this what does it do? This only shows, right, when the screen is too small. The other ones disappear when the screen is too small, but this one actually appears, right, when it's too small. So it means that this always shows, we say class D block, always show, but it doesn't show when it gets to the medium size none, right? Okay, so there it is. So medium size appears, but when it gets to, okay, notice that it disappears when it gets here, but when it gets too small, the menu appears, right? And so in here, you could put hyperlinks, right? Hyperlinks that might go to the Canvas navigator, right? So this could go, you could show the, an anchor that goes to the Canvas navigator. So this is a Kanbas navigator, right? And this is goes to, Kanbas navigation, right? And another link that goes to the course navigator. This is courses, and then the course navigation. Right, so this goes to the course navigator, right? Obviously, it could be styled differently. Maybe it takes up the whole screen. And the course navigator, right, gives you here and allows you to navigate to different places. So course navigator allows you to go to grades, right? And or it allows you to go home, which is we are home, right? Or the Canvas navigator allows you to go, to the account, to the profile, right? But these are styled differently. These are styled differently, and this shows you what they should look like, right? The Canvas navigator taking up the whole screen, right? With these arrows, right? Whereas the course navigator looks like that. Right? That makes sense? So that when you click here on the left side, you get this, but if you click here on the right-hand side, you get that. All right. All right. Yeah. So when we come back next week, we are going to take a look at the cards. Right, cards. We're going to revisit cards. We're going to take a look at that, so that we can use that to implement the dashboard. Right. So this can be implemented using the Bootstrap cards. Right. That create a rectangle with some image at the top, some text and blurb, and some URL that allows you to navigate to different places. And you can stack them up. There's tons and tons of ways of configuring them and displaying them. Making them take up the whole width of the screen or only a portion of the screen. And also how to stack them up side by side, like in a grid, right? And we're also going to take a look at the grid, how to implement the grid that is going to allow us to lay out stuff in kind of like a row, columns, that allows you to implement things such as this, right? That because this needs to be responsive too, that in a wide screen it displays 4 columns, but as it gets narrower, like the content kind of like wraps around, right? And now it becomes three columns, or 2, 1, and then takes up the whole screen and hides this navigation from the left, right? So yeah, so next week we'll take a look at that. If you want to start exploring the Bootstrap library, and there's some exercises in the labs, right, that walk you through using some of the Bootstrap navigations, right? Some of the form elements, some of the lists, right? How to style lists, how to style tables that are responsive, that didn't work for us today. And how to style rows, table rows, and things like that. So if you could go through that, and so Monday we can pick up where we left off today, right? And just make some more progress at styling some of these Canvas screens. All right. All right, that's all I had for you today. Any questions? I'm gonna investigate why the table doesn't work inside of a Flex. But I imagine that Flex is just giving it all the width that it wants, that we're not forcing it not to grow. I guess that's the solution. The solution is to configure Flex not to grow, and so forcing the table to provide a scroll bar. So yeah, so that's what I'm going to try out, and then I'll push that that example to the repository so you can take a look at that content, that code. All right, anything else? All right then. Good night, everyone. Have a great weekend. I'm assuming that reached out email. Go ahead, Anna. What's up?
Yeah, Professor, I'm the student that reached out about accidentally dropping the course.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry about the trouble. I have emailed you about the form for late course registration. If you could approve it whenever you have time, that'd be great.
Okay, let me
Actually,
see.
anytime soon would be amazing. Thank you so much.
Let me stop sharing. Where is that? Report request. Reentry. How do I do this? What do I have to do?
You should have received an email from the registrar's office for a late course registration form, and that needs your sign off, I think. Yeah.
Action. Late course registration. No, this is you. You send me this, but I don't see the.
I would look for anything that says instructor approval or registrar's office, perhaps. But yeah.
Was this today?
Yes, Professor. And I would not want to keep everyone waiting here. So,
Yeah. Anyone else has any other questions? No, I don't. I don't see it.
oh,
EIP. Where's the one now? Oh, wait a minute. Approval required. Blah 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 blah.
yes. Nice.
Anant Mudgalia, right?
Yes, Professor.
Okay. Call me.
Thank you. Bye.
Review, blah, 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 blah. Okay. Wait, is this you? Lane, Vivian, fine, graduate. All right, approve. Approve. Okay, that was one. There's another one. Approve. Approve. The data couldn't be found. No. That's Anant. And who's this? Please don't any approval, blah, blah, blah. Lake Corporation. Okay, I think I'm all done.
Okay, great. Thank you, Professor.
All right.
I really appreciate your time. Thank you.
All right. All right, everyone. Good night.
Good night.
Good night, Prof.
Bye.